So thus far in our program, we've basically just touched on issues like race, incarceration,
Genocide.
we talked about genocide.
Just
Like
a
we
little
mentioned
bit.
the word. We mentioned the word genocide, and how these themes are not 100% quite being explored. They're starting to be explored in video game narrative. Um, but why do you think that this is important to explore? And why do you think games should dive into deeper, more human questions and bring out complexity?
I think complexity is always good in a game. I mean, if you think about it, the whole like Gears of War gameplay is there's locusts you shoot. There's locusts you shoot. There's a bigger and better locust, the boomer, who kills you in one shot. You gotta work around that. But then after to a point, you might be playing the same thing over and over and over, and then you might get a little bored. And it's up to the game developers, the programmers, to make it a little more interesting, a little more exciting for you to play a little bit more. But I think another thing that makes you want to play more is the story. I mean, prison should have been explored more in Gears of War, but just to have him in prison gives you that question of like, why was he there? And then you're playing more to figure out why was he in prison,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like let's talk about
Because the question you're bringing up right now is the question of why should we have complex plots? I'm wondering why should we have complex themes?
exactly. Well, yeah, plots. I think themes go on plots over time. Um, we needed complex themes because, I mean, we have people like us back in the day playing Nintendo, playing Mario Brothers, and now we're old enough, and we want something more. We want something to learn about. Um, I'm a big fan of Star Trek Next Generation, just because uh, a lot of people can say what they want about Star Trek. That's nerdy, waste of time. I don't think it's a waste of time, especially I think of the Measure of a Man, where Data
Yeah,
gets put on trial. The
that's
whole
season two, right?
I forgot what season. I just
I think
remember.
that's season two.
Well,
Yeah, because they bring up the question of what's her face, the character he was involved with who died. Never mind. Let's go on. Let's go on.
But Data is being put on trial, and you're like, okay, this sounds really boring. Intergalactic space trial about an android. But then he's being that one court case is determining whether an android who is self-aware has the rights of a being with the same intelligence. That whatever choice they make, if they say no, he doesn't have rights, then the future datas of the world will become slaves. And they hinted about slavery. And then Captain Picard, fighting for a member of his crew, says, he doesn't see that. He sees Data as a person with emotions, as a person that wants to do better in life, and from that's why I love the show.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that adding emotional and thematic complexity can give any movement you do greater stakes.
Oh yeah, if you don't have that, then if Star Trek didn't go and focus more on ethics, on cultures, about the relationship between those cultures, and main thing of all, the science, the main science fiction, like time warps. It would have been maybe a lesser science fiction show. Maybe like Babylon 5, maybe a little bit of Battlestar Galactica. Even though I love Captain Odama,
You haven't seen the original Battlestar either.
Well, I haven't seen the original. I only seen the one that you showed me. Kind of like recent one. I don't
Yeah.
like all those characters. The only character I like, is the captain.
Yeah.
He's a man of many ways.
Well,
but
also we can't say that because we've only gotten to like partway into season 2. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't watched the entire
But-
show. It's just
but the thing
so
is-
hard to bring yourself to watch the entire show because the questions that are being brought up are just so boring.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Like a thesis, like when you're writing a paper, and even in a show, the first episode is going to tell you how the episode's going to
Mhm.
follow. And Star Trek had the first episode is like a two-parter, but then every other episode after that, it still maintained that flavor, that style. Battlestar Galactica, after 4 episodes, I was only watching it because you told me to watch it and it gets better, and then the captain said really cool speeches, and I was like, oh, I love it. But that's what I feel like. And then with games, like if games have that same theme, like Metal Gear Solid, the character relationships between him and Revolver Ocelot, boss at the end of 3.
Oh my god, I was really, really happy with the relationship between Snake and Boss.
Yeah.
In that they didn't go for the knee jerk kind of, oh, they were romantically involved. No, it's none of that. It's
like a master.
It's
and
like
teacher.
it's like a master apprentice relationship, and like they do their best to try to make it complicated in that video game. I mean, it's not the deepest master teacher relationship possible, but it's still really good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's why Metal Gear was so good, because all those cutscenes and narrative made me want to play. And that was the first game when I'm playing, and I'm watching a 30-minute like cutscene, and I'm like, wait, how long has it been? Like, I should be playing. It's a game. But the reason why I stood there and watched is because the game pushed those boundaries.
Yeah, well, I mean, Metal Gear Solid 2, I wasn't too happy with in that, because
the main
question,
character wasn't Snake.
No, because the questions that were brought up, there were those big,
Virtual
conspiracy theory kind of questions that didn't bring up a lot of humanity, and I get bored whenever. I'm not a big fan of satire and allegory. I'm not gonna lie. I love it when people are just complicated and weird and just so bizarre and sublime. Like, I just love people, even though I can't stand people a lot of the time. Like, so that wasn't too interesting. Number 3 had a lot of, like, had some moments where you get the, everybody's really weird. I mean, Snake's a weird dude.
When in 3?
In 3, Snake's a weird dude. Like, even when he tries to flirt, he's still just like, what are you even doing?
Eating the fish.
Yeah.
And was it a fish or lizard? Oh, I think it was a snake.
Yeah, it was a snake. Yeah. And I mean, he's a little bit weird and complicated.
Yeah. Well, I think
he's simple in ways. Like, they take the risk of making him simple in certain ways, and then making him really complex in other ways. Like, that's also another thing. Like, simplicity it can be a strength, too, because he's not the most personable person a lot of the time when he's talking and he's flirting. But
yeah, I think you said it best. When you read a book, you're reading to learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think in games and narrative, when I buy a game, well, I kind of buy it for different reasons, because now the only games I play is fighting games, playing with Freedomonia.
I need to get Arkham City so I can play Arkham City.
Oh, I know, Arkham
Batman
City.
fanboy.
That's our next game. But I feel like people who buy games, they want to play online with people, because you got the social part. Some people buy games for the main plot, for the main narrative. They want to play a game and be in this world where they can learn more about themselves.
They want to be entertained, which comes from, is it Greek or Latin, entertain? To be held between two spaces? I don't know. I'm messing up my stuff.
No, that's okay. It's the end of the show. We got, like, I don't know, 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes. But anyways, people buy it to be entertained, but they also buy it for the campaign. Some people buy games for the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
They like the mechanics. They like, being in the world and role playing a character. But then when the narrative, the narrator, or the characters involved in the main character explore themes, that makes the main campaign a lot more interesting. Like, we're talking about Phoenix Wright. Cool thing he's coming out Ultimate Marvel, but his games are mostly narrative. You go and you search for clues. There's a character pops up. You talk to the character. It's a whodunit. But people play that. Phoenix Wright isn't really deep, but I mean, for a game where you're just pressing, a button for the clue to object, you're basically reading a whole game. And I think, like, fiction in games, like, there's a lot to be explored and a lot to be done, more than just, your princess in another castle. Why is she in another castle? Is she cheating on Mario? Is there like a love triangle? I will be more entertained than that. You know, like if I play Mario and it's Princess of the Castle, I'm like, you know, why would I care? But if you know she's cheating with his best friend Luigi, now that's entertaining. Listen, then we'll go down to the.
Now you're just making video games sound like Jerry Springer, man. Like,
well, you know, I mean, you gotta admit that's a lot more entertaining. And we just talked about Gears. We talked about all these themes. I mean, that's why games are there to give you a good experience, good mechanics, and tell you a story. Tell you what the makers of the game think. A reflection of our society, or like Deus Ex. At the very end, we have those choices. We'll talk about Deus Ex later, but I just like the ending where it kind of talks about like gun control, you know, control of the augments.
Well, I mean that's it. There are multiple things that's a stand-in for. It could be gun control, it could be stem cell research, it could be anything where science and politics and military.
That's interesting.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a later episode.
But
I think
we're
we're
running
just
out
about
of
time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, thank you for listening. Once again, this is the Merley Players podcast.
My name's Worf Jostar.
And my name is Jordan Vanderbeek, and have a blessed day.